To no one.
We're live.
We are live. Stolen Signal Radio. What is this? Episode what? Are we on 4, 3, 2, 1? I don't know.
5.
2? Somewhere in that range. And we are going to do some general discussion today. We're going to talk some ETF experience with Binary Numb, our own George, who got to go to Newcastle and hang out with all the guys from Reflections and Red Storm, Massive, do all the secret things. And now he is part of that family where we get to troll everyone else and just kind of lead them on just to have a little fun with them. It's a fun thing. It tends to be what I do in people's chat. So, yeah,
not gonna lie, I'm jealous as a Mo. Just so you know. So proud though, bro.
You're gonna be ETF Delta. It's gonna be a thing. We'll start this Sage for ETF Delta hashtag right now. So
Sage.
Where do you reckon they're gonna do it?
Hashtag.
Yes, hashtag. So yeah, we're gonna do
that. Back to Malmo.
Oh, I think so. I think the next one will be in Malmo. Yeah, makes sense. Finishing up year 2 stuff and looking to the future. Who knows what the future holds? Maybe year 3, maybe Division 2. So yeah, that would make sense that if Massive is leading that up, that it would be in Malmo, and hopefully Sage is there to join the family, and we can all be a part of it.
Yeah, this time no excuses. I'm definitely gonna put in my thing. You know, the thing. The thing.
He's going to donate his sperm.
My application. The application. Do the application this time, and maybe make another donation. That the
application with mail-ins, specimens. Yeah. So yeah, we're going to discuss that. We're also going to talk a little bit. I did a little poll on Twitter a few days ago, just talking about if you could change one particular part of the division. What would you start with? What would everybody want to start with? And asked how you would change that if it was up to you. So we're going to do that, and then we're going to open it up to anyone that is listening that's on here on Twitch with us, and bring your topics, your questions, anything you want to talk about as well. So yeah, sounds good. We've got 1.6.1. Let's just catch up with what everybody's doing. George, what have you been up to since your return from Newcastle?
Not playing now. I've been playing tons of games. Yeah, just started properly leveling up my my division character on PS4. He is now level 16, as you can see. Ooh. Put lots of time in. I'm not being power leveled. I'm doing it through the whole story on my own.
Right. That's right.
Powering myself. Well, I've been playing Star Wars Bridge Crew, Star Trek Bridge Crew, Resident Evil. I've just been hitting the VR, to be honest. I just want to escape reality and not get back to the normality. But yeah, good.
I've been looking at that Resident Evil on VR PlayStation. How is it? Is it as intense as everyone acts?
I did 4 minutes and took the headset off. I haven't been back to it yet.
Really?
Pretty terrifying. Well, it's not. It is. It's the suspense, and you put it on, and you are literally just in this world. And I feel like I can only play it during daylight, and I have to have like cracks coming in. Like it can't be right up in my face. But yeah, no, literally, I'm about 5 minutes in, and I did actually have to turn it off. I was like, I can't do this. I had to find my happy place, and I wasn't in one. I just rage quit off Xbox. So being in an angry place and then going into a horror game is probably not the best places to be. Not for a man of my age, anyway.
It's strange how that is, because it's hard to relay that to someone that's never done the PlayStation VR. I had a lot of people when I first got my PSVR asking me what it's like, and it's really hard to explain it to someone that's never done it, because even myself, I kind of had a concept. I kind of have an idea of what I thought it was going to be like, but until you put that headset on, some really good headphones and stuff, and it's like you're totally in a different place. Rush of Blood, the Rush of Blood game, which is kind of the carnival shooting game that's kind of on track. You're on a roller coaster track. It is. I've had tons of friends and family that have come to try it out, and it's hilarious watching people's reaction. But my daughter, she didn't even make it through. Like when you play Rush of Blood, there's like a 3-minute, no, not even that long, maybe a couple of minutes of a video that's basically one of the studios that worked on the game. It's not even the game. It's just kind of the intro to the game. And it's kind of, you're walking through like an insane asylum almost, and you're walking through it. And she didn't even make it through that before she threw the headset off, bawling, crying, in tears. She didn't even make it to the game.
No.
Oh yeah, oh yeah. She's 16 and she was bawling, crying. And I've had friends that, even my mom that did it. Sage got to meet my mom when we were in Disney, and my mom tried it. And
wonderful, just wonderful. It's a great experience.
But the roller coaster part, where it's going like downhill on the roller coaster, my mom and my nephew, who is 22, they literally fell out of the chair because it just gives you that sensation if you're on a roller coaster. They slid right out of the chair while playing the game. So it's
funny, isn't it?
It is. It's hard to comprehend what it's like until you actually do it. And like you said, George, it's like you're not sitting at your desk. You're not sitting in your house. You are somewhere else. It's odd.
Yeah. No, so I will give Resident Evil. I'll probably give it another go in a bit, actually. But yeah, no, Star Trek Bridge Crew has been taking a lot of my time up, and PlayStation Division. I did try the culling on Xbox, the new Battle Royale game. It doesn't work. But you get through trading, and then the servers are all down, which is a little bit disappointing. But apart from that, what about you two?
Yeah,
Sage, what you doing?
What have you been doing, Sage?
Past couple weeks have been kind of hectic for me, as you guys know, so I haven't had as much game time as I would normally like. But so the Division has been in the background. I've been playing a lot more Elder Scrolls with the wife this week, and then I got to catch up with the Gwent game. I loved Witcher 3 and I loved Gwent. So I've been playing a little bit of that. And it's awesome. It's really awesome. But Elder Scrolls Online, that's where I've been for the past few days anyway, playing that with the wife and the brother-in-law, and it's been great. What a great immersive RPG. I love it. Straightforward. It's a great game.
They just did like a recent update or a recent content update for Elder Scrolls?
Morrowind. It takes me back to the first Morrowind that I played on PC, and I've been waiting for this. It's the only reason why I got back into, or not got back into, but started Elder Scrolls Online was because I heard there was going to be a Morrowind update, and so I started playing it and ended up loving it. It's such a great game. It takes forever to do anything, to level up, but if you ignore that and just do the side stories, the voice acting is great, and there's some famous actors in there as well that you find, and their voice acting is amazing. So I don't know, it's a great game. It's a really great game. So, but starting back into this week, I'll be back on the stream schedule and, of course, be back into the Division community. It's been a sad, sorrowful week away, but I'm glad to be back with you guys. So next week is going to be good.
We are definitely glad to have our Sage back. I don't like going too long without getting some Sage game session time in.
Oh, yeah.
It doesn't feel right.
It's hard for me to be away from you guys. I really love the community.
Me and George knocked out some weekly missions. When was that? Was that yesterday?
That was yesterday.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Amherst, maybe on tier 1, but it's what you got to do.
Carried my ass.
Absolutely. I've been kind of all over the place. I've still been, working on Division on all 3 platforms and really enjoying the 1.6.1 update. Doing, adding things like loadouts makes me go straight back to, inventory management and getting my builds together. I've been doing that on PC and Xbox. I've started to jump over onto PlayStation and do that as well. And, now with the larger backpacks and loadouts, I've really consolidated where at one point I had 4 characters on PlayStation, and now I'm down to 2. I had 3 on Xbox, and now I'm down to 1, and I only have 1 on PC. So I went from, I think, 8 or 9 across all 3 platforms down to 4. So getting that down. I still kept a level 40 on Xbox, just for, you know, and if there's a need for it in the future. It just doesn't have, you know, very much gear on it. But been doing that and still playing some Overwatch on PlayStation with the guys at SitRep. That's a lot of fun. And PUBG on PC as well, and have just recently started playing Friday the 13th on Xbox with the man himself, Matt Shacha, and Deadman and Pulse Idiot. A bunch of the guys over on Xbox picked up Friday the 13th, and it's surprisingly fun. There are a lot of problems with it. They were having some major problems with servers when it was first released. But as long as you were doing private matches, which is what we were doing, it was working really well. It's a simple game. There's not a lot to it, but the intense factor when Jason is chasing you, you know, depending on which one of your friends is hunting you down to kill you, it's a fun game. So I've been playing that on Xbox, and hopefully I'll pick that up on PC and PlayStation to play with a lot of my other friends really soon. But it's been a lot of fun. Have either of you checked that out? Are you planning on getting it?
I'm definitely getting it.
It's a lot of fun.
No doubt. The wife wants to play it too.
It's a lot of fun.
So it'll strengthen or break our marriage. We'll see how that goes.
All right. Well, let's get into what I want to talk about the most, which is, George, your experience with heading over to Newcastle to work on the game. And this is the fun point. This is the fun part for me, because I've dealt with this a while, and George is really starting to understand how you kind of tiptoe around and be really careful about what you say and what you don't say. And like I said, I kind of take it as I tease people and have fun with it. But it really is, you know, when it's boiled down to it, it's an awesome experience. It's really fun. You get to see how much the devs care about the game. So George, kind of give us like a rundown, like travel, meeting all the guys, and just a, you know, overall overview of how the trip went.
Okay. Well, yeah, the overall of the trip was exhausting, actually. That's all I could, you know. It was 4 days,
Long,
just long, solid slog. It was really good on the trip out. So obviously everyone knows I'm in the south of England and Newcastle's in the north of England. So the travel up was actually not as simple as I thought it would be by plane. So Ubisoft, they wanted to fly us up there more than anything else. So I had to actually leave England and go to Ireland and then fly back in. So there was actually no direct flight, which was actually okay, because I got to meet up with the Equimini, or Rod as I know him, in Dublin, and I treated him to his first ever pint of Guinness at Dublin airport, and then we both flew over to Newcastle together. And then that night, actually, Terry Spire and Keith and Taylor and I, we went and saw Alien Covenant, which is pretty cool, actually. And then we didn't. And then we sort of passed out, and then it all began really. 7 o'clock the next morning, everyone's in breakfast, and the rest of it's just all I remember is post-it notes, whiteboards, questions. Surprisingly, we didn't actually have much game time. I took my Xbox Elite controller, I took my PS4 Nacon controller, I took my mouse. Think, you know, we'll be having all this game time, and we only actually got to play any game time on the 3rd and 4th day, and that was for maybe 4 hours. So not actually that much game time at all. The rest of it was all theory stuff in the actual boardrooms. Literally covering off everything, sort of every main aspect, or every troubled main aspect that's been talked about, from Ubisoft forums to Twitter to direct with a community manager, sort of all the main project the problem points, which was good. And it was interesting. There was definitely some contrasting differences. There was two guys there that were, I suppose you can class as like semi-casual. They were in sort of the 500-600 hours mark. And then you had guys like Morgan Amplification, who's up at like something silly like 3,700 hours, right? Yeah, like hardcore. Like his name was like famous around Reflections for like the amount of time that he's spent. It's basically worked out about 7 hours a day this guy's put in since launch. Brutal. Like literally knows the game in and outside and out. And the funny thing is, right, his name's Morgan. You probably know, like Morgan Amps. Know the amplifiers. Morgan.
Oh yeah.
That's him. That was his company.
Oh wow!
No shit.
No, yeah.
That's
like,
awesome.
That's him. He came and he was like, "What?" Yeah. Like everyone who like when you go around to like music studios and you see like Morgan Amps.
That's incredible.
Yeah, that's the dude who plays 3,500 hours of Division, right?
Dude.
Yeah, and one of the best moments actually. We both flew back to Ireland together before he went out to. He lives in Philly, and he was telling me his entire story, like absolutely incredible story. But he's moving to Nashville in 3 weeks.
Hey.
Yeah. I was like, I'm gonna have to hook you up with Weezer.
That's awesome.
But yeah, no, really nice guy. Yeah, really nice guy. But yeah, fuck me, mental amount of hours. And then you had a couple of some other guys. There was a German guy. I can't remember, Gustav, his name was. He was pretty intense. And then everyone else everyone else knew. It was good because we all had contrasting ideas. Like on a lot of the discussions, the room was relatively split on some of the smaller stuff, but the major changes or the major stuff we talked about that are like wide game or wider general population affecting, most of us all had sort of the same agreement, also came to the same conclusions. Some of the minor mechanics, some people had different ideas, but it was good. Yeah. For like the devs, they would present us some ideas, and we would say whether they were bad, good, or even terrible. And it was interesting at how tentatively interested they actually were. Like, if we necessarily didn't agree with something, they'd really probe and want to understand why, rather than sort of be dismissive as to the reason why you were not liking what they were thinking of doing, which was really cool. It was really good. It felt like a very empowering week. But come Saturday morning, I was sort of slightly couldn't wait to be on the plane to get home and have like some normal food and normal bed and sleep.
Right.
Because they were long days. They were so long. Like 7 a.m, at the studio for 8. And then the taxis didn't pick us up till 7:30 that evening. So that's like 11, 12 hours. Then we'd go for a meal. But obviously, it wasn't just us that go for a meal. It was like half the studio. So there's like 30 of us going out for a meal every time. And then you put 30 nudes at a dinner table, right? And you're going to talk. And so no one left the restaurants until midnight. So you averaged about 6 hours sleep. It was, it was good. Very good.
It sounds very, very familiar. That's a lot of how ours were, except for you guys went even longer than we did. That's how, if you wanted to eat breakfast, we were getting up at 7 a.m. At the studio by 9, and you're leaving the studio at around, about 6 o'clock, going out to eat and not getting back to the hotel till 11 or midnight. So it sounds very familiar, but you guys put in even more time than we did. I think from our discussions, we had a little more game time than ETF Charlie. But I think overall the scope of everything that you all were covering, 1.7 and 1.8, all the year 2 stuff from what I've looked over, you guys covered a lot of material in the days that you all were there. So that's really good to hear. I think I agree that ours was probably very similar, and there was a lot of, not to say that there wasn't some disagreement, but like you were saying, the overall scope of the topics that we were talking about, everyone was excited and agreed on the main gist of what was going to happen. But our group was very similar, and there was some disagreement, in the small mechanics or how things would be implemented, things like that. So it sounds very similar to our trip as well. A question that I was going to ask you that I experienced myself is the people that are doing the workshops when you're there, their personalities are very different. I tell people a lot, like Terry. I loved the workshops with Terry because you want to talk about intense and getting right to the point. That's Terry in a nutshell. How did you?
Terry is one of those people that you'll meet in your lifetime that is extremely unique, but a personality that he just leaves a lasting impression on you. I think you sort of come away feeling like you wish you could see that guy every day. It's just like in any other world, in any other industry, I don't think he would be where he is. He's an incredibly intelligent man, but at the same time, like he could be a mate. He's a really hard guy to describe actually, but very intense, but very intelligent. Absolutely incredible. And I think being a creative director, but he knows how he wants to steer a room. He knows what type of information he wants to get out of you, and he's very probing in that way. Not anally, but verbally. And he just commands the room. Like, he's one of those people when he walks into a room and he's walked into a room without him actually saying anything. Yeah, very cool. Very, very cool. I admire him greatly.
Yeah, I enjoyed everybody there. Terry and Keith, they were super, into all the discussions that everybody was having, whether it was during gameplay or during the workshops. I mentioned it when we were doing our gameplay. They would come, Terry and Keith and Frederick, when they were there with us, would pull up a chair right beside us while we were doing gameplay and like, what do you think? Tell me what you don't like. Tell me what you do like. And they're hanging on every word you say. It's sometimes for the community, it's hard for them to really understand how passionate these guys are about this game. And Terry is, to me, the perfect example of that. This guy is super into what he does. And so, yeah, it was just an awesome experience to do the ETF. We're hoping that Sage can join that. I hope a lot of community members get a chance to do that as well, really get a sense of what that's like.
If I can no, go ahead, George.
No, you go ahead, mate. Go on.
Well, I'm thinking from being somebody on the outside looking in, and the privilege and honor that I have to talk to two guys or be in the same chat with two guys that have been to ETF. I'm trying to think of what would be kind of a good question to ask both of you that you can get some different perspective. And what keeps coming back to mind is some of the other thoughts about what ETF is now or what it represents now. I've heard some people say it's a little fluffier than the original ETFs, and that's certainly, from what you guys are saying, is not the case. It's still very to the point, and there's a lot of work that needs to be done, judging by the sleepless nights and the early mornings. And you're both really well-rounded guys. You have a lot of experience with shows. You have a lot of experience with games.
About my dad, Bob, when you say well,
were there any, with what I just said in mind, were there any misconceptions that you guys had going into it, or maybe not necessarily misconceptions, or was there an aha moment where you were like, oh wow, this is a lot more complicated, or if only more people could see this, they could see the amount of time and effort that goes into whatever behind the scenes. Did you guys have any of those moments when you went? George, we'll start with you.
Every day. Yeah, absolutely every day. Like there's, and it really actually bugs me. because I think that the biggest thing is one, the NDA, which obviously is going to prevent me from saying a few things, but the biggest thing that I've probably got the most frustrated with while I was there was the gaming industry and being now I've sort of seen under the veil. You know, she's a beautiful woman, but with a nasty, not necessarily a nasty personality, but a very secretive one. Is the amount of stuff that they work on, and the amount of enthusiasm they have, but they could never really show it. Everything that they release or everything that they talk about has to be very calculated. When I was there, so we were at the Reflection studio, so we got to see a lot of the Reflections guys. Then a few of the Red Storm guys came out. There's a few from Malamo. Like I got to meet Matt Hegby from the live team, and these guys are all like super enthusiastic, right? They've got so much passion. They're like so happy to see people and just talk right about sort of the nerd life, and talk about what they're working on and talk about things they want to do in the game, and talk openly, which is where sort of the ETF's sort of like this weird environment where because you've signed an NDA, they sort of you become like their friend, and they just completely chuck just information at you that they wouldn't normally be able to talk to, right? They can only talk to other employees about. And I think that's probably one of the biggest things that really it did piss me off, was the fact that there is so much good stuff that they are doing, and there is so much good stuff that they are working on, and they have so much good knowledge about player information and statistics around the game and stuff like that, but they're just not allowed to talk about it. There's, and I think that's so I state of the games, right? They're so light on information, even though they have a plethora, right? They've got books of information they could talk about. It's just they're not allowed to. And I think that was probably the biggest eye opener for me, like every day, was the amount of legal crap that they have to deal with just to be able to tell us a patch note, right? And I think that was the biggest thing for me. And it just gave me a lot of appreciation, really, for how difficult, that we're slightly privileged enough to even have a state of the game on a weekly basis. That they are open enough, and they are trying to break boundaries by having this weekly state of the game that they do. Because I've seen Hamish's list of what he'd like to talk about, and he goes to then they go and legal's like, no, can't talk about that, can't talk about that. PR's like, you can't talk about that, can't talk about that. And then you end up with
poor Hamish,
our year 1 anniversary stream. It's just mental. So that was my biggest takeaway, actually, because I have seen Under the Veil and I have seen what's coming. It upsets me that they can't talk about it, and they want to, but they can't.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. It's definitely not for a lack of trying. We saw a lot of that as well, and I couldn't agree with you more, George. It would be really good to see how this community would change its opinion, or change how they treat the community management team, the community managers, the community developers, if they knew everything behind the curtains, and like you were saying, all of the hoops and hurdles that they have to jump through just to bring us a state of the game and the information that we get on those. I've seen that as well. It's amazing. Small, simple things, all of the different departments, all of the different things that they have to get involved just to give that kind of information out there. And it's funny that you said about the people there when you signed the NDA, because we definitely felt it as well. When we went to Red Storm, these people, everyone on the Red Storm team, the people that were there from Massive, all those people are super passionate about the game. And when you have ETF show up, as I'm sure you guys experienced as well, George, it's almost like you're a celebrity. Like, these people have been waiting for you to come there just as much as you've been excited to go there. When you show up, they know who you are, and they're excited to see you and talk to you. And you know, they will sit down and talk to you for as long as you want and just pick your brain and tell you what they know and see what you think. That was really a really cool experience as well, just to go there and them be excited for you to come there and see what they're working on. A lot of hours, you know, they explained to us when Last Stand was being worked on, how much time they had spent working on it and testing it and doing all the things to get it out there to us. So that was a really cool, you know, thing to see as well. So that was kind of my takeaway from it. Just how much, you know, how much they work. And I don't know if you experienced this, George, because I've never really been a part of the bashing within the game, but when you go there and you see how much work these people put into it, you know, it really, it kind of irks you even more sometimes, the disrespect that you see people give them on Twitter. And that's kind of my thing. If you could see how much work goes into it, you'd probably, you know, come away with a little different outlet than.
Yeah, you're right.
So we've got a question in chat, just real quick, guys. And this is it's actually a good question. If they have hoops, etc., that they have to go through, why not explain to the masses what those hoops or obstacles are, so that we know? And I've kind of got an answer for that as well. But do you guys have anything off the top of your head that?
This is actually something I brought up with them. I said, "Why are you so shit at your communications?" Because but I think so. Hamish and Yannick, I had a long conversation with them both actually about like their challenges, right? Because they want to bring you state of the game. They that's something that they want to do, and Hamish is really passionate about the state of the game shows. You know, he's trying to create this whole production stroke broadcast team around this you know, these bringing this type of information back to, you know, the gaming community. The biggest problem that they have is the legal part of it, right? In, you know, Ubisoft's share prices and shit, and I think as the video over the next couple of years, you'll probably start to see. I don't know. Another example is like the game Warframe, right? Their community manager Rebecca, she's very similar to what Hamish does, in the fact that they do this stake of the game, this weekly thing, and it's becoming more of a trend. And as this trend sort of carries on, we're sort of at the bottom of the curve right now of information sharing, right? And it's all very secretive because, you know, it's these little boy clubs, but it's slowly starting to release more and more information. I think game developers aren't just behind a vBulletin forum anymore, right? You have Twitter, you have Discord, you have Twitch, you have all these different avenues, and they can't sort of hide from that anymore. You know, some developers themselves, or, you know, actual lead designers, you know, they're becoming celebrities in their own right. They're becoming personalities, right? They're not just people behind a video game, right? And I think we can definitely say that from the Division point of view. Most people know who some of the main developers are. So I think it will happen. They will start to share more information. I think it's just that the way the industry works right now is that's stopping them. But it's changing.
Weez, do you have anything?
Yeah, I agree a lot with what George is saying. It's really difficult, and I think the path that the Division has taken since the release of the game, with it being a new and different IP from Massive, you know, I don't think any of us would disagree that they have stumbled along the way with, you know, even things like, you know, the bugs and things like that in the game. It's been rough for them to kind of figure out exactly how they want to release information when they have sometimes, and they thought it was a good plan. It's backfired on them. I think the year 2 announcement is that exactly. I think with the year 2 announcement, they were looking at it more as a year 1 celebration, where the majority of the community was looking at it as a year 2 announcement. They really misread that. And so I think sometimes that's what kind of curbs them from doing exactly what the community wants. I don't know if that really is the excuse for why they don't let us know what they can and cannot say, but it is a lot of legal stuff that blocks them.
And it's a bit of a double-edged sword, right? You know, if they go and say, hey, look, we're working on these new game modes, right?
Right.
And we tell you what those game modes are. Right? This is completely fictional, right? This isn't me announcing anything, but they're working on new game modes, and they go out and say, we're working on this, this, and this, and then the community goes, great, fantastic, yay, and then
it's confirmed through the community,
and then to the community it's confirmed, right? When actually it's a work in progress, and then all of a sudden something happens and the whole lot gets pulled.
Right.
Then what position are they in?
Yeah.
How it's like sometimes it's actually easier to have someone not like you and not give them the information than it is to give you all the information and then to take it away. And I think that's the stance that they're choosing to take, because they are working on a shit ton. It's just, if they go and tell everybody what they're working on and it doesn't work out, legal say, no, you can't put that in the game, or, the mechanics don't stand up, or any of those reasons, and they can be working on something for a year. Right? They gave me an example of something that was in the division for a year, and they had to pull it through 2 weeks before the product ship date. Right, and that's the line that they live under. So I think that's why they tell us a lot less than what they can do.
And the community doesn't forget. I mean, how often do you still hear people talk about the drone app that never happened? People use it as a joke now. It just shows you that, like you said, when you do those things and you announce something, you don't follow through with it. The community doesn't forget. So that's why I totally agree with the fact that it's better to play your hand kind of close to your vest and not show all your cards than to put it out there and then have to pull something. The gaming community can be relentless when it comes to things.
Got to remember too that each one of these guys, it's just I spend a lot of time in retail, as both of you guys know, and so when you as an individual work for this company to a guest or to a consumer, you represent the whole company. So if we were to have Hamish get up there on State of the Game and say, well, legal won't let us tell you about what I really want to talk about. So, I mean, it makes everybody look bad in a sense too. They have to be very careful about how they communicate, because you don't want to give the perception of infighting or you have your own reputation as a whole, as a company brand to maintain. So there's a lot of lines, and a lot of blurriness in how all of that is communicated, at least from what I can tell. I mean, they have to be very careful.
Absolutely.
One department or another under the bus just because you can't talk about what you're doing. You're all on one team.
Absolutely. There are a lot of departments. A lot of departments that even simple things. George got to see that. They use the example of the door, things like that. Like, it's so much thought that goes into one little thing, and then approving it legally and testing, all that. Is so many departments working together to create something so small. It gives you a real perspective on how much goes into game development.
Binary, do you have that link going to Taylor? He said he'd join us.
Oh, did he?
Yeah. We can put it out there. We can go ahead and get some people on. We can get him in here as well.
As long as he doesn't dab and he's sorted his quiff out. Good. But yeah, no, just to sort of touch, just touch on that. It's a really hard line to go on, and and Gus was saying, do they have a communication department? Yeah, they do have a communication department, but it's 9 times out of 10, everything that they do has to go through their legal department, right?
Legal owns
and
everything.
That's no joke, right?
Yeah.
Everything that they do. Whether it's they add a toy into the environment, every bit of graffiti, number plates on vehicles, shop fronts, everything from sounds has to go through the legal department to make sure that it's not infringing on anything, it's protecting branding and all this stuff. And they, for almost everything that goes into the game, they have at least 3 or 4 other designs for. And it's only one that makes it into the game. Right, and that's sort of what they have to contend with, not just that's just licensing and IP. So they want to be able to tell us more, and it was definitely something they took away from a few of us at how poor their not the strength in their communication, but their openness with their communication. If they can't say something, just give us the reason, not necessarily give us the exact reason, but tell us that they do want to tell us and sort of give us some type of view. And he's got his Reflections t-shirt on. Look at him flexing his pecs.
I noticed that.
How you guys doing? You lot all right?
Doing good. How are you?
Very good, thank you.
Awesome. Thanks for joining us. Good. I know. No, I've noticed you've been on Twitter a lot after the ETF and did the YouTube video. If you haven't went out and checked it out yet, make sure you do that. We'll try to post the link in chat and on Twitter. But give us your rundown. How was your ETF experience? What did you think as well?
George or Binary pretty much summed it up. It was long, it was hard work, but it was probably one of the best experiences of my life, easily.
Even more than growing that beard. Yeah.
My patchy, miserable attempt at a shit beard.
You definitely looked like you all were having a lot of fun. I think it was maybe Saturday. I was just going to touch base with George and ended up FaceTiming him. The next thing I know, I'm on the phone with, I think it was you, George, and Hamish. It's 55, and a bunch of people was like, George, you look like you were having a lot of fun. I don't know if you were completely intoxicated, but you look like you were well on your way.
I was well on my way. Yeah. We had an unlimited drinking budget that evening, and even by the end of that evening, we'd only drunk half the allowance.
Yeah,
I was pretty hammered. I can drink a lot.
Dude, I think our group may have gotten out of control. I think the night that we went to the Boxcar, which was like a bar with Coin Up Arcades, I think they gave us like 2 ticket vouchers for drinks, and I think that's basically all we got. But man, if it would have been unlimited, I would have hated to.
Oh no, man! Like literally, we got given. So we started off on 4 drink tokens, and then we got given another 4. and then we got given. And then it was like they were just lying on the table. So people just from not drinking them all. And then by the end of the night, they were like, wow, who had them? I think it was Matt started counting them, and he still had like another 40 left over. Yeah, it was mental.
Quem and I was deadly with them, wasn't he? Shots of vodka was.
Yeah.
Wow.
I feel hungover just thinking about it.
That's crazy.
Yeah, it was mental. Cool.
We also have Dean in here. Dean, how's it going?
It's going good. How about you guys? As usual, I got to make my appearance. You know that. Everyone should know that by now.
We've been talking a lot of ETF experience. We've been talking a lot about the future of the game. How are you guys still feeling with 1.6? Have you put a lot of time into 1.6, Dean? I know you've been on.
Oh yes, I've been doing a lot. I've actually been doing a lot of undergrounds just because my PC character is not very well highly ranked. I've been doing that a lot over this past weekend. Just making a ton of loadouts. I got 4 loadouts now on my PC character, so having a lot of fun with that. I think a lot with 1.6 has brought a ton of build diversity into this all.
Well, I put out a poll, and I'm trying to pull it up now on Twitter. I put out a poll a few days ago, basically asking if you could start with one particular objective or to start. If you wanted to do some changes, what would you start with? And I'm trying to find it now, but I think I had Underground, Last Stand, Dark Zone, and Survival, and I'm pretty sure, which of course I can't find it now, I think Dark Zone and Underground may be leading that right now. It's a little over 400 votes. I think those are both and to me, honestly, the Dark Zone is kind of surprising. I thought, PvP being the place and, having its place in Survival and Last Stand, that those two would kind of run away with it. But Dark Zone is right there along with Underground. And I think a lot of people are wanting to see some changes to all of the DLC in the Dark Zone. So it's kind of interesting to see people's takes on it. A lot of the comments. Just to ask your guys' opinion down the board, how do you think it ranks as far as what areas of the game would you like to see changed. I'm going to try to find some of the comments on Twitter, but we'll start with you, Sage. What do you think?
Underground is number one on my list. I was such a huge fan of Underground. Survival is great, but I didn't spend a lot of time in there just for amount of time it takes to get through survival in general. I'd love the game mode, but it's not one of my go-tos. There's so much cool shit down in the Underground, and I would love to see more with that.
You would have loved to have been in our Underground workshops.
Mm.
Yeah. We did Underground specific workshops, and yeah, they were really good. There was one of the only 2 areas, or 3 areas that we discussed where we were actually split into smaller groups.
Mm-hmm.
So it was a lot more focused. But yeah, you would have loved it, man. It was really good. There was some really good stuff coming out of the Underground workshops.
Love me some Underground for sure.
Yeah, you do.
Yeah, I do. What up, Remy?
Remy?
It didn't seem like there was enough salt in this diet, so what's up? I'm here. No, I'm just kidding.
We're joined by Remy from Bombshell Jackets. We've been talking ETF. We've been talking about hopefully changes to the future, and me and George walking and Taylor as well walking a very thin line of hopefully not to give anything away. Taylor's got his poker face on right now with anything that anybody might say. Yeah, I know you've talked a lot about changes that you would like to see. I love listening to them on Bombshell, and occasionally when you do them on My Morning Coffee as well. What do you think? What game modes need some changes? What do we need?
Well, friend Sage already mentioned Underground, and as you guys know, I'm a big proponent of the Diablo 3 universe, and I'm not one of those Division players that just mention Diablo. I actually play Diablo too, so that's kind of interesting for me. I mean, I went, I think I'm almost over 700 Paragon this season in Diablo, because that means one of 2 things. 1, I'm either really efficient at the game, or 2, I have no social life. So,
I think it's both.
It's a little bit of both. It's like that Elvis song. But yeah, so I'm I don't know. I think Underground needed a lot of harump, because I've been going through with the silliest build in the world. I'm just doing a Sentry's Call build with a shield, and I just stay behind my shield the whole time on the hardest difficulty, and I'm like, hey, look at me go. I have a shield. Hooray. And that's what I do right now. My pistol has like 32 shots, and it's a good pistol because it's my pistol. And so that's been interesting, but it's kind of super boring. Like, I still want like Joe Farrow, but not Joe Farrow, the boss, to like show up and be like, hey, I'm going to eat you now. And I'll be like, cool, high five Joe Farrow, but not Joe Farrow. You know what I mean? Like random cleaner, almost Joe Farrow, but not Joe Farrow. That guy. Yeah. I've been kind of alluding to that because Diablo does this dope thing where it's like, hey, here's a boss from the game that you've already killed, but now he's a Rift Guardian with a different name. Like Zoltan Cool is like Sand Shaper, and he just shows up and he's like, hey, I'm Zoltan Cool, but I'm not Zoltan Cool. And it's pretty cool. Yeah. So
what do you think about the idea of, like, if you added something like that, like a random, like Joe Farrow, but not Joe Farrow, if you added a random boss like that, you might get on and do a few hours and you might not see him, but if you do, then, he might drop something very rare and specific. Is that something that, like, if you kill him, you get that, but if he takes you, he's gone, like that?
Yeah,
kind of thing?
no, I'd love to fight that version of No Jero. That would be his name, of course. Or no, it'd be Faux Jero. Faux Jero, F-O-E Jero. We got this, guys. We did it.
Is that
It's done.
The mysteries of the ETF. This is what happened at the ETF. They renamed characters and
Confirmed.
Underground.
Yeah,
Look at Taylor. I see his face right now.
that could be the Bullet King's hype man.
No, the Bullet King's hype man is Wrecked, who has a small cooking show on cable access. I've already invented that storyline. They can't take that from me. I can't figure out which Mountain Dew can is mine because I have like 3 up here. So I'm sorry. Keep going with your thoughts. But the other thing I'd like to see is, how in DZ9 you can go and clear and like you get loot and stuff, but no one's ever really in DZ9 unless there's an extraction going on. Man, I wish they'd make DZ9 like a reason for people to actually go in there outside of just getting the loot, because it's really cool and there's a lot of art. And I was talking to a dude who I know who plays the game, and I recently quit smoking, so he's one of those dudes that still smokes, and he's like, hey, I'm going to blow all this smoke in your face while I'm talking to you. And I'm like, cool. thanks, man. That's helpful. So he was talking to me and he's like, yo, bro, you still play the Division? I'm like, yeah. And I don't tell him I do a podcast because I don't want people in my gaming life, but I don't even think we're friends on PSN. He's like, but yeah, with that DZ9, how come people don't go up in there? I'm like, I don't know. I go in there and farm. He goes, yeah, but it's only good for farming. I'm like, yeah, I guess it is only good for farming. There's no real PvP in there because most of the I'd say jokers that go in there to just like kind of for lulz. It's kind of like when you're playing on WoW and like Hellfire and you just go and like kill people for lulz. You know what I mean? But DZ, they're in DZ01, DZ02 by the door, just like, yo, we're streaming right now, dog. Let's kill each other for fun. And it's like, cool. But DZ09 like really doesn't serve a purpose outside of the loot. So I kind of wish they'd do something with that. I just wouldn't know how to,
All hunters. All hunters.
That'd be cool. Like every time you load an extraction, like hunters just show up.
Yeah. Every street corner, a hunter and a sniper.
A
hunter and a sniper. You're kind of like naming everything I wouldn't want in like this nightmare scenario, but you did good. But no, I think hunters showing up at extractions in the dark zone would be pretty cool outside of just regular players because it'd make players that go in and cut rope still. It still exists. Like it happened to me a couple of weeks ago. It's like, holy shit, did somebody just cut my rope? But yeah, I mean, I don't know. Hunters would be kind of cool, but I wouldn't know how to implement it. Like, there's so many questions I have about the game, which is why I love you guys from the ETF, because you go out and like you go do the thing and you get to learn all the stuff. And it's like, Remy's working and stuff, so I can't do this. But, you guys get time off and your jobs appreciate you for whatever reason. And you're very lucky for that because mine doesn't. But you guys get to learn like the inner workings of the game. Meanwhile, I'm just sitting here speculating like, I wonder if the engine can do this. And I wonder if the engine can do that. And I wonder what it would take for me to break it. And you guys know those secrets now.
It was like, that was one of the most like mind-opening things about the ETF was realizing like how much would go into like the smallest thing to change. So like everyone's suggesting these mad, crazy, cool ideas. And then like we put it forward and it's like, yeah, that would take us like 3 years to even attempt or something crazy like that. So
it's got to be really humbling too, like because not only you're no longer on the outside looking in, but you're actually on the inside looking inner.
Yeah. Like so, at one point I went up to Terry and I was like, damn, I'm so glad I'm not in your shoes right now. Like with the community just going in on them, but they're like, we can only do that, is crazy.
Well, I was telling George when we were looking at some of the things that they worked on and they discussed, with 1.6 when we went, there was kind of this overall impression that the ETF Bravo didn't have enough time to really make an impact on what was coming in 1.6. And that is true to an extent. It came not long after ETF Bravo finished up. But now seeing what's coming in 1.7 and 1.8, as I've discussed with Binary, a lot of the things that we talked about and we mentioned, some of them indirectly in a way, and some of them almost, exactly word for word, are being implemented in 1.7 and 1.8. So I noticed that you were changing hats, Sage. I didn't know if this was the Grammys. You were changing hats.
He's trying to one-up me on hats. Like, that's what it is. He's like, I'm going to put on my flat cap, and then I'm going to put on this fedora on top of the flat cap. It's kind of like a really bad exhibit thing. He's like, yo, Rabbi, I heard you like hats, so I have 2 hats. Here's the one, and I'm going to put on the other hat.
Sage, I could put on a very specific hat, but I don't want to ruin anything, so.
Dude, you should do it.
Yeah, I might do that here in a minute once you guys get discussing a topic. I'll jump away and grab a hat as well. But yeah, that's what I was saying. Like a lot of the things that we had talked about are almost directly impacting 1.7 and 1.8. So initially, I can agree with a lot of people that it seemed that we didn't make a real big impact with 1.6. But coming up in 1.7 and 1.8, a lot of those things that we talked about are coming. As I'm sure ETF Charlie will make an impact on those as well. So,
I mean, don't put ETF Bravo down. I'm not saying it because you were in it, and we randomly got to meet and high five during that experience because I was in Charlotte for my brother's swim team match at the time, or swim meet match. I don't know how swim
survival.
I have two brothers. My mom remarried, and she had two more kids, and they're really cool. But they're swimmers, and like it's so funny because like my mom has money now, and when I was a kid, it was like, "Yo, hey, I saved up $5. Does that mean I get a new Nintendo game for the NES?" And she's like, "No." I'm like, "No," but you know, these kids are like doing swimming and stuff. So I was down there watching them do that. I was like, man, it is incredible what these kids are going to be able to do that I never could. It's like I'm behind this microphone, but I got to high five Weezer, so that was pretty worth it.
Absolutely. So let's see. George, what do you think? Like, with the how the community feels, what do you think is the most important area to make some changes? I think we all agree that all of the areas need some type of update to keep us to jump away.
It's a tough one, isn't it? Because I did a few polls, and I think it's just divided depending on what type of game you like to play, right? Whether you're PvP or PvE. I definitely think PvP needs to be looked at. That's probably one of my biggest takeaways. And being not, you know, I like a lot of PvP games. I just don't like the Division PvP. But luckily, with some of the stuff that I've seen, PvP is definitely going to be looked after in a very positive and well-rounded way, and more so than what I think people are ever going to anticipate or imagine. In terms of rework, though, if you know, for me, the Dark Zone's always been it's been really the only place that's never really lived up to its full potential yet. I don't think. Mechanically, that is right. Then, you know, they've added supply drops since Vanilla and like a few contamination areas and stuff like that, but I don't think it's had its real potential. Underground, I already know what's coming for Underground, so I'm going to
look at me. I already know what's coming from Underground.
I'm going to humbly sit in my chair and just wait patiently for that, like a fanboy. So.
Can you and Taylor just do me a favor? Like, if I ever make some like weird ass Diablo reference, like about Underground, even Weezer too, because I know you're in on this, but can you just like kind of like, you know,
rub on nipples every time you talk?
Yeah, just like that comment, just so I know that you don't really like that comment, and I'm just totally out there at the moment. Like, you know, Fojero's never going to show up. Fojero.
How sweet is this?
I think the biggest surprise going into ETF for me was the amount of love that Underground has and the underutilization of its potential. And after doing these focused workshops on Underground, you know, we met the lead. What was his name? Taylor? Was it Jeff? It's a French guy. What was it? It's like GI.
I've got it written down in that notepad, but I probably spelled it wrong. I don't even want to.
It's definitely like G4. It's a French guy, incredibly intelligent. But he's running the Reflections part of the division.
Was it GIF or GIF? I'm just wondering.
I know, yeah, that's it. I was sort of waiting for like stop motion whenever he walked.
I'm gonna find out
now. But he's front ending the rejuvenation of what Underground is. With all its new mechanics, its reworkings, the removal of bugs, you know, everything from map rotations and everything possible that you could, every permutation possible that you could try and think of that the Underground is good for. That's what his team is looking at. And the stuff that we talked about is, it could really turn it around. It really could. And I think that, you know, every bit of content that the community's done around it, they listen to. I was quite surprised actually at how much content that the community makes that they actually do end up watching and listening to, even no matter how small it is, whether it's some like one liner on Reddit or, you know, that's literally half their job is they spend their time just trawling through all the content that everyone makes. So, and that was probably one of the most humbling things was that, you know, they're not in their ivory tower looking down. They are actually paying attention, and you know, they actually have those discussions between themselves.
There was one. Go on.
No, you got me.
I was just going to say that, like, talking about they're always watching is we were out for a meal, and I think it was me, George, I think he was called Matt, and Gabe was sat on the table, and like every couple of minutes, Matt would whip out his phone and he'd be on Reddit.
Yeah, that's right. And I was sitting next to Dom.
Oh, somebody said this. And then like he would then take that post and text it on to somebody. So like they don't literally update it and then just leave it. They're always watching for feedback, seeing what they can do next time. And that was really crazy to think that this subreddit that a lot of people hate, like, they're still watching it. They're still looking for something they can improve on.
Mm-hmm. I think I had mentioned it when I was at Redstorm, like, it's a lot of what the community managers like Matt Shacha are doing, watching what's being posted on Reddit, on the forums, on Twitter, all that. But within Redstorm, there was a hallway that we walked down, and it was almost like some kind of military room that was completely dark, had all the lights off, and they had, I'm going to say it was probably 10 or 12 TVs that were staggered one over the next, and like large 60-inch screens. And that's all it was them watching YouTube videos or watching streamers stream their game, and people just sitting in there and watching, listening to what they're saying, reading their chats, and just constantly watching everyone that does content creation. The room that we ate lunch in had an overhead projector and was projecting, a streamer, whether it was Streamer House or Upper Echelon or whoever, and doing the same thing constantly, all the time. It was on all day. So yeah, I mean, they're definitely listening.
Yeah, I've heard similar stories because my co-host is also my life partner, which is kind of a strange adventure because she knows things about the division and can't tell me about them. And I don't know if that's really enraging or you know what it's kind of like? It's kind of like when you see, like, you're on a diet and you see like cake and you're like, yo, I really want you cake. And like, let's say hypothetically, I'm a 6'5" man who lost 30 pounds recently. So it's like, I lost weight and I'm like, I see this cake and I'm like, yeah, I've been good. I can eat that cake. But it's kind of like constantly that kind of struggle where it's like, I want to know things and she can't tell me things and I can't, like, really, it's hard to explain, but like, it's got to be tough for you guys to even speculate at this point because, like, like Sage and I and, whatever else, it's like, we haven't been to an ETF, so we don't know what's going on. So we could sit here and just be like, hey, look at us. We don't know anything. So let's just speculate. And you guys could just be like, yo, you guys are idiots, like, in your head.
One of those things, though, is what I found is actually that speculation bit is almost half the fun of what we do from doing podcasts, right? It's half the fun of having those conversations with the wider community about, oh, we could do this, or, we could do that. And, you start to, theory craft that out and around like we do, before we went on ETF, right? But as soon as you go on ETF and you sign that NDA, most of that just flies out the window because and it was really interesting. There's two aspects of it. One, because now that you've seen behind the veil, and then you start to talk about what there possibly could be, first of all, whether it's bullshit or whether it's actually going to happen. And then two, the people watching you are going to be like, well, obviously you're talking about it, so that's happening, right? So it's sort of, it takes that content creation point out the window, right? That fun part that we would like to do, which is speculate our ideas and throw it out and all that type of stuff. It's like, that's the negative side of, right? Yeah. It's almost like that's the negative side of what ETF has done is taken our creativity. It's sapped away our ability to theory.
It's gonna suck. Like, I'm gonna picture you and Taylor like making videos now, like listening to the audio before you put it out on YouTube. Be like, oh no, I just said something under NDA. Oh God, Premiere, please cut this. Please cut Premiere, please. And it's like, I made this dinky little video about why I think like version of Kanai's Cube from Diablo should be in the division because I'm too lazy to farm things. And it's like, I can picture you guys like sitting there making videos like, yo, hey, this is what's going to be happening sooner than, oh crap, I just said that. Oh, all right, let's go back and rewrite the script. Oops.
I had to I was making this script for 1.7, which was global events, and I've forgotten the name.
Commendations.
Yeah, that's it. And
I got you, dog. I watched that video.
You saved me there. And I had to send this script literally over 10 times back and forth to Petter. Like, and he would come back with notes saying, you can't really say this, or you've gone into too much detail about this, and you can't suggest this because we've not announced that yet. So it was getting to that point of where I was like, shit, I wish I never signed that NDA. But, it's going to be one.
I couldn't imagine.
Yeah.
So with your videos now, when you're talking about a specific topic, and I'm sorry, this is kind of inside baseball or inside the actor studio or inside some other show, but
That was fun.
when you are doing a video now, do you have to like send the script to Petter or anyone like that, or is it just when it's specifically about items regarding like NDA stuff?
Anything, I guess 1.7 onwards, I'm going to be sending the script because I don't want to be the steps over the line. And
that's including theory stuff, right? So if we want to theorize, that's what I was talking about. Us theorizing about what Underground could do, or rogue mechanics or anything like that. We also have to sort of send them just to make sure that it's not covering over anything that we said during those workshops, because it could be construed as confirmed.
Guys, I'm so glad right now that I didn't get picked for ETF Bravo and I didn't apply for ETF Charlie.
and it's good to be safe, because there are definitely people out there that are doing those videos that are not doing those things. And sometimes I listen to them, it's like, yeah, you may have probably said a little more than they would have wanted you to.
Oh yeah, there's been a few of those already.
Yeah.
That sucks, man. Couldn't imagine it.
But it's cool though. It is cool. But
it's cool being excited for the community and not being able to tell them exactly why you're excited. Because like I've said, I think I put out a tweet. It's like a lot of the things that, and the community theorizes so many different ideas for the game, and I've put it out there that a lot of the things that the community has wanted, that 1.7 and 1.8 are going to give you some of those things. It's not everything, and that's why I kind of leave it like that. It's not everything that we're asking for. They're not going to be able to do, because just like Taylor was saying, like, you can think of some really awesome things, but it would just take them way too long to implement them. But some of the things that we want are coming. And even things that we haven't even, a lot of the community hasn't even thought of yet, we're getting as well. So I for one, am really excited for both 1.7 and 1.8.
I'm excited for that hat. Like, we haven't really talked about, we've talked about it in chat, but like, I'm just excited for that. Like, look at that logo. Like, it's stitched onto that hat, guys. Yeah. Like, oh man. Hey, Taylor.
Inside source with my wife's family's company. That's what they do. So this was a pretty easy thing to accomplish.
Sweet. Somebody one year made me a hat with like a finger extended in the middle position, which in America isn't a great thing necessarily, but they got it for me because I used to work tech support, and like I love it when people like have like branding like that on hats. Cause I'm like, man, where'd you get that hat from? And like I get really jealous because I can't wear hats like that because I have like a obscenely large head. That's what it is. But yeah, cool.
Yeah, I might get a few different styles. I might actually do one like this too.
Dude, we can do it.
The white brim. Yeah.
We're talking now. We're going to get some stuff out there, so we'll hopefully have them available soon. And anybody else, man, we need. I can make some one-off ones. We need to make kick-ass bombshell jackets. You let me know what you want on it.
Yeah, we got the mug already. Like, the Ninja Pancake store is pretty robust for that alone. I really enjoy what we have for bombshell jackets because it still has the stuff when like Lady of Legend was on the show, like drinking with Tanks a lot, and like they were just like, yeah, Division. It's like, this is the best editing I'm ever going to do in a podcast ever.
We need a one-of-a-kind Remy the Redbeard bombshell hat just for you.
Nope. I have the coffee mug. That's all I need. That's it. My hypocrisy only goes so far. We have a site artist who does all that stuff for us, so I don't even have to like deal with it because like I hate all of my work. Like, I don't know about you guys. Like, Taylor, I don't know when you make videos and like you watch them and you're like, man, I hate what I'm doing here. Like George, like when you're doing a podcast, you're like, hey, I hate what I'm doing here. Or like even Sage, when he's doing Silas and Sage, he's like, God, I hate this podcast so much. Like that is like really the struggle because we do this to have fun and like we listen to our own body of work and we're like, man, this shit sucks. Like, why am I doing this right now? Like, did I just stutter over the word same? How did I do that?
It's so weird you should say that because I was going through my liked videos and for some reason I'd liked one of my own and this was like a really old video. I heard my voice back without anything on it and I was like, Jesus, people have seen this video and it's the worst thing I could have ever done. But
It sucks because like there's like really that like I talk about this a lot on my morning coffee, or I talk about like the self-loathing that I have for myself when I'm doing projects, and it's just like, you know, cool, on Bombshell Jackets this week I mispronounced Terry's last name again, even though there's a road right by my house that's pronounced the same exact way. Like, how did I do that? Like, you know, you're just kind of thinking off the cuff, and it's like, great. It sucks, man. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to go off on that.
It's different when the recording light comes on, isn't it? I mean, as soon as it goes on, you're a completely different person. You're just completely. Look, I'm trying to figure out what to do with my hands right now because I'm talking with you guys, and I shouldn't be nervous at all. But that's just what it does. See, I have to hide my face. You get nervous.
We're getting back into having guests on Bombshell again, and I can't wait for you to come on stage because, like, I took an NPC from the game that I'm going to have you read the backstory of in your superhero voice, and it's going to be probably the funniest character I've ever written a backstory for in the Division that doesn't have a backstory yet.
Which voice? Which one?
You're doing that like superhero voice one day on stage, like, "Here I come," and I was like, I can't do it because when I try and do it, I'm doing silly voices that my kid likes.
I hold silver. Yes,
that's the one. I was listening to the Vigilante audio files that you can find in oh crap, not Stuyvesant. I forget where. I'd have to look at it. It doesn't matter. It's not important. But there's like a series of like audio journals that you can find about a guy who was a vigilante, like going through the city. And I want to use him as one of the NPCs now. So I'm gonna kind of take that character and merge it into another one. It's gonna be really funny.
Sweet. Yeah, man.
Unfortunately, before you go on to the next segment, I'm going to go get some dinner now, or tea, or whatever you guys call it. So,
we call it dinner.
Thanks for having me on.
Absolutely.
Pleasure meeting both of you as well.
Later, Taylor.
See you later.
See you later.
Catch you soon. Cheers for having me on.
Yep, thank you. As well, as we start to wrap up this episode, George, you want to talk a little bit about what the streaming community is doing today to raise money? Kind of get that out there. I'm going to try to post the link on Stolen Signal Twitter. So yeah, just everyone know what's going on.
Yeah, so well, as probably most people know, that we run a monthly streaming event under the banner DCW, which is the Division Community Weekend. In light of the last, obviously just over a week and a bit ago, 2 weeks. Yeah, it must have been. Was it Tuesday last? Just over a week and a half ago, where the bombing in Manchester Arena, the Ariana Grande Studios. Well, obviously they're doing the memorial One Love concert, which is actually sort of just already started. Actually, it's happening right now. We thought it would be a good idea to do a charity event, streaming event, which started at midnight last night, GMT or BST. And basically we've had 40 plus streamers streaming throughout the day, constantly, and they'll carry on going all the way until the night, basically helping raise money for the British Red Cross and Samaritans, and to sort of help the affected families, help injured families, and obviously support families that have had some, the deaths as well, so sort of help pay for funerals and things like that. So I can only thank, I can't begin to thank actually the response that from the Division community in terms of the amount of streamers that wanted to help out, the amount of people that have turned up to actually watch the streamers. Obviously I can't see how much money's been donated, but that sort of really doesn't really matter. I think it's more about the amount of people that have sort of shown and rallied together to show support for what is, hopefully doesn't become a normality of reading that in the weekly news. But so yeah, I'd just like to say thank you very much, and just go on Twitch, look up the Division, and you're going to find a number of Division streamers streaming under the same banner, which is it's really all you can ask for. Really, everyone's streaming sort of for the same reason, which is fantastic.
Absolutely. I'm going to try to get on here shortly and see if I can humiliate myself by streaming. I don't know exactly what I'm going to do, but I'm going to do it for a little while and hopefully help raise some money. It's a awesome charity. So yeah, absolutely. If you haven't yet, if you can donate, we'll post the links, and be sure and drop in and show some support for all the streamers that are are giving their time to help raise money for this. It's awesome. Before we wrap up, let me go down the list. Anything closing that anyone wants to say or talk about before we get out of here? I'm going to get out of here and play a little while. Hopefully play with some of you guys if you're down for it. If not, I'm going to be trying to straighten out my streaming. Who knows what's going to happen? It's probably going to be a disaster, which is what I enjoy. What console? I don't know. Whichever. I'm down to play on anything. Maybe PC or whichever one. If you got a preference, I'm down. Doesn't matter. Dean, any last words before we get out of here? Any questions or comments before we get off?
Just some things going through my mind, especially what you were talking about earlier with ETF and communicating with the community and forums and Reddit. I mean, I don't think people realize how much the community itself are developers, not just ETF, not just everyone who works at Red Storm, Ubisoft, and Sweden. Everyone just needs to stop being so hateful about the content and the bugs and all that. Games nowadays are just so complex, and people have such high demand and want so much content, and they want it now. And I just really wish people would just be more patient and be a little bit more constructive with their feedback. And if they don't like things, then take to the forums, do these things, interact, network, stop pointing fingers, and just be a more positive experience to the gameplay. And just overall, I wish things would be a lot more different, not just within the division, just other gaming communities, because everything they do is state of the game. With ETF, this is all groundbreaking when it comes to our nerdery and video games and all that.
My content creator guys, Sage, Remy, what do you think? I'm sure it's not any kind of anything new that no one's done yet. Kind of playing off of what Dean has said, with a large portion of the community wanting stuff now. We run through content so fast and being upset, and I want it now. Is there any way that we can play off? I'm sure you guys will remember Veruca Salt from Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. That's her song. She don't care how, I want it now. That was
boy.
Oh, yeah.
and it's perfect. It plays off the name. Her name is Veruca Salt. Like, this could be perfect. Like, we gotta get Veruca Salt within the community somehow. Don't care how, I want it now. I don't want to sing the whole song. Let's just say this past Easter, you would have seen at our family gathering for Easter, you would have seen a bunch of kids trotting around looking for Easter eggs, and me, like an idiot, dancing around the backyard singing, the Veruca Salt song, just having a lot of fun. So that was, I won't sing it now. I don't want to put you guys through that. But yeah. Sage, anything before we close up, buddy?
No, great show. Had an awesome time with everybody. Thank you for coming by. And it's 2 weeks again, right? We'll be back in a couple of weeks. Do it all over again. So yeah, great time, guys.
Jump over to Remy, and I'm excited for the episode with Sage on Bombshell, now that he's teased out a little bit.
Oh, don't worry. I got something for you too in mind. So don't feel like you're getting out of this one, Weez. I would like to take a brief moment to apologize for something that I said on Twitter or on Bombshell Jackets. Taylor just said in the chat 17 question mark at Macco's Buck. I recently said that he sounded like he was 17, and I'd like to take that back. He actually looks like he's 23. So when I heard his voice in the video, I thought he sounded very young, and I think he's calling me out for it, but I don't know. It's a joke at this point. But yeah, Taylor, you definitely look like you're in your 20s. I apologize for saying you were 17. So I feel bad. I've said it openly now, so no one can be mad at me, especially me. But as far as like the Division community stuff goes, Division community, what's up? It's your boy Rem. Please like, comment, and subscribe on this train of thought in audio format. Don't do that. Yeah, play the game. Enjoy what you're doing. Play with builds. Don't play the same build over and over again, because it's just such a waste of your time. Even if you're like, this guy got 161 kills in a manhunt session, it's because he had 3 other dudes behind him with different builds supporting him. Like, don't think you're going to be a one-man army ever. So anyway, all I'm trying to say is, have fun with the game you're playing. And if you're not having fun, there are other games out there that you can play. You already know what they are because they're installed on your computer, your console, even your phone. Like, you go play some Candy Crush, dude. You like Candy Crush? You might even be the hardcorest the Candy Crush players. But get on that. Like, make those little red things mix with other red things. Maybe do some Crossy Road. I don't know, baby, but enjoy games. Just enjoy games. That's all I got. I'm done.
And the
Mic drops.
Mic drop. George, anything in closing?
No, I'm good. Yes, thank you to all the streamers for streaming for DCW and raising money for the Manchester Awareness campaign. And there you go. I'll see you all in the Dark Zone, really. Add me, Binary Numb, anywhere you want. I'm happy to play. And see you soon.
Absolutely. I'm going to get up. I'm going to test some streaming stuff, and I'm going to be on shortly, hopefully with some of these guys playing some content. We'll be back in 2 weeks, and we hope to see you all then. So thanks for joining us on Stolen Signal Radio. Bye, everyone. Goosey.
Bye.